Okay, Miss Otakara Klettke, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Get Foxy show with us today. I so appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, right off the bat, you have this beautiful accent. Can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Okay, the accent comes from Czech Republic. That's where I was born. I was born during Czechoslovakia back then, but I speak Czech. That's my native language originally, and I grew up there. When I was 18, I started traveling. So then I started moving around. And through the course of the first few years, I became an avid traveler. That became like my absolute drug almost. And I lived also in Austria, lived in Brazil. That was before I settled in the United States. And now I live in Oregon, US. So I've been here for since 2002, so for a lot of years, so 16 years being here.
Wow. And you're settled kind of here in the States. Do you still do a fair amount of traveling?
The one thing what happens when you start living abroad is that most of your traveling has to go back home. So usually it was my, yearly trip and back to Czech Republic, and the settling also happened by starting my family, and I have a 11-year-old daughter, so that makes traveling a little more difficult. And mostly I was always trying to come back once a year for my daughter to keep her Czech so she can be raised bilingual. So most of my traveling, some people would say, yeah, you travel because I go every year to Europe. To me, it's more like going back to where I already been, visiting the same family and friends, which is wonderful, but it's not the same kind of traveling I used to do when I was younger, where I was purely after exploration. It was purely after seeking new places. However, since my daughter is 11, I have a huge dream now to start traveling again and get an RV, and she's homeschooled, and so be able to take her on a road and all these trips and start really knowing United States, because it's a huge and beautiful country and has a lot to offer, and there is a lot to explore, and you can explore it in a fun way. And the opportunity here, it's pretty amazing, and the Pacific West is epic, as you know.
You bet. We're pretty blessed to be living here kind of in the Rocky Mountain region. I grew up in Wyoming and made my way south to Colorado, but boy, yeah, we've got some beautiful country out here. So if you get in this neck of the woods, be sure to say hi.
I will do, for sure.
And here on the Get Foxy show, we like to talk holistic health, natural beauty, and passionate living. And you fit the bill on that in so many ways. This passion you have for travel, for writing, amazing. And you've written this book called Hear Your Body Whisper. What exactly does that mean?
It means that our body can and is equipped to talk to us back, and it's meant to. And unfortunately, in our lifestyle and the way we evolved to the modern way of living, which nothing against, but it kind of disconnected us to our roots, to our biological roots. And so this book, it's about finding this connection back to our roots, honoring your body as a unique body, that there is no special diet, although I'm a very natural person. I love, organic food, organic style of living, but I will not preach that somebody should be vegan or somebody should eat meat and a lot of fat, high fat. That's the diet, or that's the diet. It actually is. My book is not, I'm saying these diets are wrong for you. All I'm saying is that everybody is individual. And this book is kind of a guide how to connect yourself back to your body, to be able to make this judgment for yourself before you go to visit a doctor, that you'll have this strong feeling and understanding, because there is no doctor, there is no shaman, there is no spiritual leader who's actually inside you, no matter what, it's you. So the very first step of knowing what to do health-wise and how to live your life lies right within you. And the answers are ready. They're just banging on a door. The problem is that by the modern way of living, by the way we are, we disconnected ourselves from that. And so it's about connecting back to our roots, to connecting to something that already is within us, and just unlocking that mechanism and being able to see it.
How did this book come about for you? How did you give birth to this book, Otakara?
That's a great question. I was, at the time when I started to going on that journey, I was 39 and a half. And I decided I'm going to write and publish a book for my 40th birthday for myself. So it was a present to myself. A lot of people say, like, I wrote a book because I wanted to help people or bring my message. I wrote a book because I always wanted to write a book. And languages and being able to talk and communicate via written word was something that books were a big part of my life since I was little. If you would have asked me when I was 5 years old what I want to be, I would say I wanted to be an author. If you asked me when I was 15, I had no idea. When I was 20, I had no idea. But when I was 5, I was very clear about this. I wanted to be a writer. And the books were a huge part of my life. But then I started traveling, and I no longer felt that I could write in Czech because I was no longer speaking Czech so much on a daily basis to be able to get all the nuances of my own language. And I could feel how my language just wasn't up there as it used to be. It wasn't as good. And so I was very intimidated by it. And then again, and I started living in US, and then I was intimidated by English being my second language and going like, okay, I can get by, I can read, I can do that, but can I write? And I did. Then I was given the answer to this question that you can hire an editor. And I was like, wow, that is actually true. I can hire someone who will fix my flaws and I can still bring out the book. So at that age, I was kind of, after a decade of taking care of my daughter and being at home and kind of having that almost claustrophobic feeling, and I needed to create something. The creation was just bursting out of me. And so I decided I will write a book. And the health was such a huge subject of my life because I spent a lot of my childhood being quite ill that it kind of was the most natural message I wanted to give out there. And I always tried to live a very healthy lifestyle. And that was that path. And I felt like the people, especially living in this country, it felt like so much people are just, okay, something's wrong with me, I gotta go see a doctor. And they don't even give it a second thought to see what they can do themselves. And sometimes they do. There is this little home style remedies when you have a common cold, but that's where it ends. It usually ends with a cold. The cold is okay, you eat a garlic and vitamin C and have a rest that you will never ever afford on the end for yourself because nobody ever does that. And, buy some over-the-counter pill and that would be it. But past the common cold, everybody was okay, this aches me, I'm going to ER, I'm going to the doctor, and the doctor told me to do this. And I said, why? A lot of times you go why would you, how do you feel? How does that medication make you? How does it make you feel your body? What your body wants? And so it was a message that I really wanted to get out there. But the book itself was kind of, like I said, it was kind of that, I just had this urge to write, I just had this urge to create, and there was no stopping at that point.
So out of your own personal experiences, it sounds like you've figured out how to start listening to that inner voice of your body without giving too complicated of an answer. How do you figure that one begins to unlock their own capacity for self-healing?
Um, you have to love your body. It sounds like really silly. You do have to love yourself. I do have a different approach for self-love in my book than what is most commonly given. And a lot of times we hear it all the time. We hear all the time, like, you kind of have to love yourself, otherwise, it's not gonna work. Things are not gonna work. And this is very true in this case, because you have to be able to be humble to what your body is giving you. If you're not humble, if you're not the one who is willing to listen, the body will not talk. And the way how I do it and the way how I present it in the book, or at least my point of view on this, is that our body is basically 90% of the cells. If you look at all the cells on your body, 90% of it are other organisms, are not human cells at all. There are other viruses and bacteria and yeast, all kinds of things we have naturally growing on us. And the only reason we see a human being when you look in a mirror is that our cells are huge, just like a chicken egg is one single cell. So you don't necessarily need a microscope to see it. It's just the level of the size. And so your body, if you look at it, and I look at it from the point that my body is basically like a farmland, and it's a farmland for all these organisms. And my role is to be the leader of this farm. And if you, we actually live on a ranch, my husband has a ranch, and so you have to understand the dynamics of it. If you're trying to lead all these little creatures, you have to take care of them. When you take care of them well, they take care of you back well. And they're responsible for everything. Your body doesn't absorb vitamins. Your body needs these little guys to help the vitamins breaks down to bring them where they need to go. They create your antibodies when you're sick. They take care of you when you're sick, not really your body. It's them. So taking care of all these organisms, there is 10,000 different species living on us. That's a lot. That's just species. That's not the 300 billion microorganisms that are on us. So we have a 10,000 living species. And if you just kind of grasp it around your head, I'm not really asking people to love themselves. I'm asking them to love these guys. And it's much easier for us, especially for women. It's much easier to love someone else because we as women are wired as the givers, nurturers, the ones who take care of someone. And so it's always much easier for us to love our child, no matter how the child looks like, what it is, what's wrong with the child. But it's much harder for the same woman who has absolute unconditional love to her child to love herself with half the flaws of her child, because we're so hard on us. So the moment you kind of let go of the image that it's you just look at it, okay, I am in charge of taking care of this body. And it's an amazing body. It's a great body. And if it's awesome because these guys take great care of my body. If I look good, if there is some genetics that play some role. So I would say it's a nurturing love. It's a nurturing love the mother has towards her child. So it's a little different principle. And in a way, I actually get that a lot from my readers, that it gives them the blueprint on how to love themselves, because everybody goes yeah, I get it, I understand, but I still can't. And the moment you realize that you can't go in a war with your body, you cannot win. There is absolutely no way you can win in a war, because if you go in a war against your body, you'll be dead. So your body is always there for you, and always has been. The only one who ever gives up is the soul, is what makes us, the being. And the body itself, it might be sick, but no matter what, whether you're sick, whether you're obese, whether you're whatever could be your problem, I don't know, at that point your body, it's still doing its best to do the best, to create the best out of the situation. But without the leadership in that body, they don't know. These little creatures, they have no idea what to do. They kind of do their best, but like there is a leader who's missing to ask for the information or listen back what the body actually really wants and what the body really needs.
It's pretty surprising how this microbiome has an effect on the body. A few episodes back, I had Hilda Labrada Gore, who is part of the Weston A. Price Foundation, and she was talking some about this as well. Really caring for those little microorganisms in your body can have a huge difference in your health. It's pretty amazing. I'd be curious to know what are some of the most common questions that you get from your readers about your book?
Oh, you know, I don't think they really repeat. Usually, generally, the one thing that comes back, it's always about being able to love themselves. So the self-love really clicks in a lot of with the people to take care of themselves better, because it's like, I feel like what I did in that book, it's that I wrote something that everybody somehow knew, like deep inside, like when you read it, it resonates. But until you read it, when you read it, you go like, oh, it makes full sense. And I understood it. And so like sometimes I get questions about like personal health from people. So these would be like more of individual things, which a lot of times I don't even know the answer to. And it's not up to me really to say the answer, but usually it's the most of it, it's just the people being happy, and I'm very thankful for the readers to reach out to me, that they can love themselves, that they can take care of their body better, that a lot of times it's that they, and this is one of the things I highly suggest, is to go on some sort of a cleanse and cleanse your body so you can start fresh. Even Hippocrates, when he was looking like 2,600 years ago, when Hippocrates started his medicine practice and built his beautiful hospital, and at that time, the father of our medicine, it was pretty epic what actually the guys back then could do. They all lived till average age of 90, so we kind of are a little confused if we think our average age is actually growing up. It's not necessarily true, because these guys all lived really, really long time. And the thing what was pretty revolutionary about Hippocrates, how he taught, was that first thing he did to the person, he let them fast. He didn't give them food for a couple days. And then he got them like kind of a drunk. He got them like a little high on something. So that was like his next step. But after that, so the person would have like some sort of a profound spiritual experience. And after that, he started feeding them on very slowly, on very good food. It was a good diet. He really based a lot of things on a diet. And unlike anyone else at that time, he was very gentle. He really catered to the body on like very gentle level, and very gently he healed people. And to this day, every doctor says his oath when they graduate, and he's the guy in health.
The Hippocratic Oath, you bet. And that's something that I, as a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner, also follow as well. We definitely look to heal and not harm and really take care of our patients. And what you're talking about here does really have some connection with traditional Chinese medicine practice. We see the body as a garden or a field, or in your case, a farm, where you're taking the whole body in its context. We're not treating it like a machine where we're breaking it down into its smallest parts. We're looking at the whole picture. We're looking at the weather patterns, the sunlight, the soil, the feed that we're feeding the animals. We're looking at how the animals react in different weather patterns. And it, it's all metaphor for the body and how we treat the body. But yeah, fantastic stuff. When you get feedback from your readers, have any of them shared with you any of their outstanding transformations?
I usually hear from them soon after they read a book. So I usually hear from them when they get on this journey. And when I've heard of unusual transformations, this was usually what happened to them in the past when they shared with me. And this happened, that they went and they go like, yes, your book confirmed what I knew and what I went through. And this has happened to me in the past. Because it was a similar situation, my book's written basically on a fact that as a child I was really ill and I had a lot to overcome, and I was spending most of my 80% of my time pretty much being ill, and 20% I would be at school and out running. So like I would have the readers who would read my story and they go like, similar thing happened to me, and I might have different issues than you had, but I had that and I had all these problems, and now 20 years later, and I'm free. Not only I'm free of it, despite the fact that I'm much older, my life it's much fuller and I can do so much more. I'm physically much more able. So yes, so I get some of these, and they vary. These stories vary, and I would, again, just like if people tell me whatever are their problems, they vary a lot in what it is. I would say there is like nothing really common. I'm always surprised with every single email. It's new, something new I haven't heard of.
That's so much fun. I'm going to switch it up just a little bit here. And I'm going to ask you the question that I ask every single one of my guests. And that is, what does Foxy and being Foxy mean to you?
Foxy is, to me, it's that elegant look women had in like prohibition, that that attitude, that's carrying yourself of uh, being smart, being witty, being beautiful, and just a little above the common problems, just being able to get yourself just rise a little above and just be.
And who do you think embodies Foxy in your world?
I want to say I do.
Well, that's a legit answer. I think you're
It's a good attribute, so I would like to think I have it.
That's fantastic. I think you're probably the first one of my guests who have named themselves, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. By gosh. So when you are not writing books, because it sounds like not only do you have your Hear Your Body Whisper book, but you're also a children's author, correct?
Mm-hmm. I have a children's book series for it's chapter books, so I have like elementary school age children. So I have a children's book series written from the dog point of view. I like different points of view. That's why I offered it even in Hear Your Body Whisper, and in this one, it's the book. These books are little mystery books written from canine point of view. And they're fun. They judge people too from their angle.
That sounds like so much fun. And what are the names of the books?
The book series is called Detective Bella Unleashed, and I have two books out. One is the first one was The Case of Missing Max, and I just a couple of weeks ago I launched the second one, which is The Case of False Blame. So, and they have the Bella is the super smart Siberian Husky girl, and her BFF is her next door neighbor, poodle called AC, who is that character of kind of little nose up, well-educated, show dog, kind of a gal, doggy gal, but she pushes through because she has this friend who doesn't have any education, but it's super smart. Bella, the Siberian Husky, it's super street smart and figures out. So I think they make a great couple, and I love my characters.
Excellent. Well, I will include links to all of those books in the show notes when we put that on the website. So back to the question that I was thinking I was going to ask, which was, when you're not writing these books, what are you up to? What are you doing?
Well, since I self-publish these books, it's not just writing. I always say, like, the writing, it's like maybe 20-25% of the time of the work. So the rest of the work is actually doing everything else and supervising all the, formatting with children's books. There are illustrations, and the formatting is a little more difficult there, and the whole launch, the marketing of the books. But besides this entire publishing world, I homeschool my daughter. So there is like the whole full-time jobs I feel of homeschooling. And like I said, like, we have a ranch, so we have lots of pets. We don't have like ranch animals, but we do have 5 dogs. And my daughter has 3 guinea pigs, and we take care of a chipmunk, and we have a snake, and a couple of fish tanks, and a frog, and so we have a lot of little critters, and so I just love to be out in the nature. And when we have a chance, and now at this summer, it's just so beautiful, I like to take my daughter, and we just love to go on road trips. So it's again the traveling. So we just pack up the car, take a couple dogs, and go on a road trips.
That sounds like a fascinating education for your daughter. I'll bet some of these trips are educational opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. She's a huge nature fanatic, and she actually has her own show on Instagram. And like, for being 11, we started like 3 years ago officially, of making videos of finding the animals. So actually all of our trips, we call them expeditions. When we go on our road trips, there's Sophia Spotlight Expedition, because she has the Sophia's Spotlight. And so we go to like coast, and we go to tide pooling and pick up rocks. And then she makes these videos that she posts online. So every single one of these trips, it's always about like seeking the nature, seeking the animals, going to every possible zoo, safari, or something we can. And then as well of looking after the animals in the wild. And it's really great, because she does this show. So a lot of time we ask kind of backstage, and we get access to animals that a lot of kids don't have the access. So through this time, we really made a lot of good friends with many naturalists, and had a chance to pet incredibly different animals. So that's really cool.
That is really cool. And of course, with you being such a foxy mom, I would assume that you're also passing that foxiness right on to your daughter.
She was born with it.
What would be one piece of advice that you would have for the Get Foxy Show listeners about how to stay foxy?
Do what you feel it's right, not what your surroundings, not what everybody else around you think it's right for you to do.
And how can people get a hold of you to learn more about what you're doing, your children's books, learn about Hear Your Body Whisper? How can they find more information?
Well, the books, if somebody wanted to just see the books, they are all on Amazon. But to connect with me easier, you can just go to www.Otakara Klettke, just my name, .com.
Excellent. Well, I will also include that in the show notes as well. And Otakara, we are up on time. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here today, sharing your books and your time with us. And oh my goodness, you are definitely making an impact on the world. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was absolute pleasure to talk to you, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy and grateful for this opportunity, and hopefully your listeners will find something interesting out of it. Thank you for having me.
I know they will.